Good evening. I've accepted the Reader's Challenge for a bedtime story from Mr. Healy, the superintendent at Argyle. At the end of this story, I intend to nominate the superintendent of Cambridge, Dr. Doug Silvernell, to do the same. For this story, I've selected a book with many great pictures called Oops. Pork chop, bacon, hiss, sausages, bacon. Oops. It was the same old story. Mr. Wolf was hungry. Mr. Wolf was very hungry. And Mr. Wolf had his eye on Preston Pig. Don't look at me like that. I'm the big bad wolf. It's my job to be nasty. These stories would be pretty boring if I was good, wouldn't you say? Suddenly, there was a huge crash. Oops, said Preston. Oops. You clumsy, great pudding, said Preston's mom. Get out from underneath my feet and take that basket of food to your granny's. She's not well. Yes, Mom, said Preston, and tell Granny I'll be over later to chop her some wood, said Preston's dad. Yes, Dad, said Preston. And put your coat on, said Preston's mom. Yes, Mom, said Preston. And don't slam the door, said Preston's dad. The chimney pot is loose. Slam went the door. Oops went Preston. Red hood, basket of food, Granny's house. That reminds me of a story. But which one, said Mr. Wolf, just before the chimney pot landed on his head. Mr. Wolf picked up himself and followed Preston. I'll take a shortcut through the woods and get there ahead of him, said Mr. Wolf. But Mr. Wolf did not like the woods. Woods were full of nasty, itchy, scratchy, and bitey things. I wish I could think which story that red hood reminds me of, said Mr. Wolf crossly, as he put thorns out the bottom of his feet. I know it isn't the three little pigs, said Mr. Wolf, but I do like the story, especially the part where the wolf eats the three little pigs and escapes. Well, that's how my mom used to tell it. I'll huff and I'll puff and I'll blow your house down. Mr. Wolf tried some cunning tricks to catch Preston, but he didn't have much luck. Trick number 1, the old banana skin ploy. Trick number 2, dig a deep pit dodge. And of course, trick number 3, if all else fails, bash him in the head with a big stick plan. Preston reached Granny's house safely. Mr. Wolf was fed up. He was hot and sticky, scratched, stung, and bitten. And I still can't remember that rotten story, said Mr. Wolf. Suddenly, there was a huge crash. Oops, said Preston. Mr. Wolf sneaked up to the window, and this is what he heard. What big eyes you've got, Granny, said Preston. All the better to smash my teapot, said Granny. What big ears you've got, Granny, said Preston. All the better to hear you smash my cup, said Granny. What big teeth you've got, Granny, said Preston. All the better to gnash when you smash my sugar bowl, said Granny. Hey, cried Mr. Wolf, those are my lines. I remember that story now. It's Little Red Riding Hood. Mr. Wolf leapt through the window, tied Granny up, and stuffed Preston in a sack. Now let me think, said Mr. Wolf. How does this story end? He was just about to open the door when he remembered. Here's Daddy. Oops, said Mr. Wolf. And they all lived happily ever after. The end. Thanks. Have a good night.